What's up, metalheads? Are you guys ready for Volume 4 of Metal's Best by Metal's Best? I think you might be. We've had 3 volumes so far. Total kick-ass videos. Can't say enough about the people that have sent the stuff in. Great stuff. Great picks. Great albums. Things that I totally had forgotten about, hadn't thought of in years. Made me want to go back and listen to stuff. Hopefully it made you guys want to go back and listen to things as well. Hopefully it maybe made you guys find some bands and some albums that you had never listened to, and got some new stuff to check out. So that's part of the purpose of this video. So anyway, just really glad everybody has liked them so far. Please continue to share them. Please continue to watch them. Please continue to comment. Please continue to send in your videos if you haven't already. But in the meantime, would you do me a favor and just check this shit out?
What's up, John? This is Cam Lee. Of course, for those of you watching, you don't know who the fuck I am. I guess you could say I'm the godfather of death metal vocals, or just an asshole. But anyways, John, you had asked me to do this thing where I talk about some of the albums that influenced me. I'm going to talk a little bit about some albums that influenced me, but I'm also going to talk about a couple of albums that I think are really influential to the scene that I don't think too many people will talk about. I'm talking about a little bit about how it all kind of came together and stuff like that. So for me, going all the way back to 1982, probably early 80s, 80, 81, 82, 83 was by the time that I got into Manus, with Rick, and then we met Chuck, and continued on from that point on, and then became Death, and you guys know the history, or you don't. Look it up. It's the internet, Wikipedia. Anyways, big influence on me at first. So you got to think about this as, like I said, 80, 81, 82. I wasn't a metalhead at first. I wasn't even into metal, remotely into. I grew up in kind of South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. I was a skate punk. I was one of the early, skate punk kids. So I was listening to a lot of punk and hardcore and stuff like that. And so I really wasn't into the metal stuff at first. But I can tell you that there was a crossover thing coming around in the 80s. And one of the very first bands that I say for me that kind of crossed that over, that kind of started introducing me to more of that metal sound, let me get these albums real quick. I have to say the first band sort of that just bridged that crossover thing for me, and this is 80s now, is going to be, the Plasmatics. And this album especially was real key to me because it's my favorite Plasmatics album. It's also, Plasmatics, they did, I think the Damned video came off of this, and it was like MTV, the early days. It was really influential. When I saw that, for the first time, I was just completely absorbed and blown away. Plasmatics is always one of my favorite bands, always, still to this day, always has been. And I think that album right there, that really was that band was the very first crossover metal punk band before anybody else was crossing over, before all the, DRI and all that stuff that's considered crossover. Plasmatics was definitely, a key band that to actually bridge the two together. I mean, sure, I'm a big Misfits fan, and I grew up a lot on the, that stuff, the Misfits and Sam Hain and Danzig, and love, followed his career and love his stuff. But it was Plasmatics that really kind of like opened that doorway and got me in. Now, once into metal, I was introduced into metal in high school, like a lot of kids are, and I was introduced to metal, especially back in the 80s, when you would get into bands, you would go to a record store and you'd shop for a record, and what the first thing that would get you interested was the album cover. And album cover artwork has always been key in the metal scene in the early days. And one of the first bands that got me interested into it, ironically, is also how I met Rick Ross. Rick and I were in high school together. We were in art class together. We had an art class together. Rick had brought this album in, and ironically, I was drawing the album or the character, I could say, from the album cover, and that's Iron Maiden Killers. Now, how is this key to death metal? It's not, but it's key to how I got introduced into metal, and Iron Maiden, of course, being one of the biggest metal bands in the world. This album right here, this album cover, and Eddie on the cover, of course, very key to how it all like got together. So album cover art is very important. Yeah, it actually helps. Getting into stuff, I could talk about stuff like the Venom, and of course, Venom was very influential to us, especially in Manus, of course, because we took the name from Venom's guitar player, Manus. But what really kind of changed everything for me, was when we decided that I was going to do the vocals. Early vocal stuff I was trying to emulate, sort of a Cronus type thing, but what kind of started really getting me staple into doing the type of growling death metal vocals was not so much influence from this particular band, but more the nuances and the feel of everything. And of course, now this was because I heard the demos first. This was the demos that I heard first before the album came out. And then it was the album that kind of like put the staples in, kind of like set what it is. And that's Hellhammer. Yep. Apocalyptic Rage. Now, like I said, I heard the demos first, so I was familiar with the demos because we were tape trading back then. So what I heard Tom doing and the nuances that Tom did and the ideas that Tom was bringing to the table is what I basically kind of aped or adopted and took to my own and made my own from what he was doing. And like I said, a lot of it had to do with the nuances and the way he worded things and his phrasing. That has a lot to do with where my influences came from. Now, not everything is metal, where my influences came from. And a lot of early, old school death metal guys and a lot of old metal guys will tell you that they're not always influenced by the genre that they're doing. One of the biggest things, and especially key because this came out after we had done Death, and then I'd gone in to do Massacre, and then I started doing the lower growling and Massacre, and a lot of that had to do with stuff that I was influenced from, and not all, like I said, not all of it was metal. One of the things that got me another band that's not metal, but got me listening to certain ways that the vocalist was phrasing things and certain nuances the vocalist had. And I was dating a lot of, so this was 86, 85, 86, 87. I was dating a lot of goth chicks during that time, and one of the goth girls that I started dating for a little while was from England, and she had brought my attention to this band. And it was this album, and I still have this album today. This band right here, Fields of the Nephilim, this band, this album, Dawn Razor. What I heard Carl doing on this stuff was amazing. I had never heard a vocalist have so much passion in his voice and a way that he could just vocally kind of take you into another realm. And this album is very key to me personally, as far as the nuances that he uses, the way that he phrases things, and the way he words things. And there's a certain way he's a guy that can actually get as low as some growlers, but still stay in key and sing. And that to me is amazing. So it's a big influence on me for many years is Carl McCoy's voice. Now, I'm going to talk about all the thrash stuff that came out during that time. I mean, this is an influx of bands were coming out. You have the Bay Area stuff, of course, like Metallica, people are going to talk about that. And, the later like Exodus and Slayer and stuff like that. And yes, there was the West Coast stuff that was big. And then, you had stuff that was coming out of Germany, like Sodom and Destruction and Creator. All that stuff was very key. But there was also another scene. It was a smaller scene, but it was really, to me, key and stuff. And this isn't just the stuff that was overseas. Like in England, there was so much stuff coming out. But there was a little scene coming out of Canada. And you had bands like Slaughter coming out of Canada. You also had another band, which I think was key. And this album was key to the thrash scene, especially around 86 and 87. Sacrifice. And this was another sort of kind of a crossover almost kind of thing. You could say this was like a thrash, lightly death metal kind of a crossover thing. Not quite death metal, but could death metal appreciation, you can get, there's some appreciation there, And so I always thought that, Torment and Fire, Sacrifice album, is a key album that maybe not a lot of people talk about, but I think it's essentially an influential album, especially in the thrash scene and the early death metal scene. That like I said, almost crosses over in that genre. Now, one of the things that uh, separates death metal from the rest of the metal stuff would be lyrics. Not only the sound, not only the growling vocals and the aggressiveness, especially going back to the old early stuff, but lyrics play it is a main key to what separated us. Because what I was doing back in Manus and Death was taking a lot of stuff that was influenced, and we was watching horror movies constantly. Every weekend, I would get together with Chuck and Rick, and we'd go to the drive-in and watch horror movies like double features, or we'd go to the video store and rent like 4 or 5 videos and come home and put them in Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then rehearse during that time. And we're just getting an influx of horror movie stuff that was coming out. But another band that I think was really key to doing this stuff came out at the same time. This one guy came out at the same time that we all came together. It was about 84, 85. And he was up in Ohio, and while we were down in Florida, and he got a chance to get the album out first. But he's very, very key and very influential in the scene, and I don't think enough people talk about him. And this album is very important to the death metal scene, because to me it's the first death metal album to really incorporate the whole horror genre into it, and that has to be Necrophrasia, Season of the Dead. And this is very key and essential, especially to the horror aspect of it. I mean, even look in here at this the Fangoria shirt. So I mean, Killjoy doesn't get enough credit, and I think he should, because I mean he was there with us all, and doing the whole genre of the horror type of death metal. So there you go. There's the couple things that I threw at you, and I hope that's like good enough for you and good enough for everybody else. And I hope you got a little insight to my twisted mind.
Hey, what's up? This is Lenny from German thrash metal band Dustbolt. When John asked me to do a short video for him, it was really hard for me to point out certain albums that I really love, because there's just so fucking many. But one story that I can tell, and like one band that had a major impact on Dustbolt and the music that we do, is Slayer, of course. But I remember as a little kid I started listening to metal music, and everybody was talking about Slayer and like the most evil band in the world and the heaviest band in the world, but I didn't hear them until a certain point, until a friend of mine just gave me a CD. And I was like a small metal kid just starting. I had no idea of the different genres and everything. And yeah, I remember that I expected that Slayer might be like brutal death metal vocals, deep guitars, like some kind of that heaviness. But when I put on the first track of the record, it was War Ensemble on Seasons of the Abyss, and yeah, it just blew me away, because I didn't know thrash metal until that point really, and it was so heavy on another level that I didn't expect, and I just kept listening to it all the time. Just War Ensemble, the first track, I listened to it like 10 times in a row, and then I went further to the other tracks, and this had a major impact on me, because yeah, just like the aggression that this band like put on a record, it was just really insane, and that's what made me go into the rehearsal room and like, okay, let's play some thrash metal, let's play some fast music. And for that reason, of course, I still love Slayer. It will always be one of my favorite metal bands. yeah, but as I said, there are so many fucking good bands out there and some good young bands and current bands. So keep checking out everything that's coming out. Cheers.
Hello, my name is Cory. I'm a Hungarian metal fan, originally from Transylvania, but I live in Sweden now. I've been a fan since the middle of the 80s, 83, 84 maybe. Before I started to listen to metal music, I was listening to bands like Modern Talking and stuff for a very short period of time. Then I suddenly discovered the band through a friend, Scorpions, and that was actually the first hard rock heavy metal band that I've ever heard of. And when I heard their live album that my friend had, I felt that wow, this is like the music that I really like, this kind of style, and I just wanted to have it for my birthday, so I got a pretty used copy on the tape, but I loved it, and I started to look for other bands like this. And I remember I was telling for a friend that I have heard about this. I heard this band Scorpions, and it's really good, and I have a tape with them. And this guy told me, well, nice. I started with the same band, and now I'm listening to even heavier stuff. And I was like, what are the heavier stuff like that? Like what bands? And he was starting to tell me about Judas Priest and Motorhead, and Iron Maiden. Motorhead was the next album that I got, Ace of Spades. It was a great heavy metal album, and I was feeling that, man, this is the style, I have to discover more about this. And then the next one was The Number of the Beast with Iron Maiden, and Accept, Halloween, Manowar, all those kind of heavy metal bands that I was into. Then came along some Hungarian, really great Hungarian metal bands, Pokolgép, for instance, with their Pokoli Színjáték, hellish stage play in English. It's a really great heavy metal band. They're still around even today, plays great music even today. Then Ossian, another Hungarian metal band, and I remember the feeling hearing heavy metal on your native language. It was like, wow, man, this is the shit. I mean, I never thought there are Hungarian bands playing this kind of music. And from there on, it went even further. Suddenly, a friend of mine gave me a tape with Metallica's Master of Puppets, and then I was just hooked. Man, I was feeling that, damn, this was the first thrash metal band I ever heard of, and I just liked the energy, the speed, the lyrics, the fantasy in the music. Metallica, the Master of Puppets is a pretty heavy album, but even a whole lot what is it called? Progressive. So I just loved it. It was my favorite album for a while. Then I was talking to some friends about thrash metal, but at that time Metallica was the only band that I knew that was thrash metal. And of course Motorhead is the grandfather of thrash metal, but they're not really thrash metal, even though they're really heavy and stuff and fast. Then some friend gave me a tape with Creator. On the A side was Pleasure to Kill, on the B side Endless Pain. And I remember he told me, I don't want this tape, it just sounds shit. And the first time I listened to it, I was thinking, well, this really sounds shit. I mean, it's like, is this music? I thought it was something wrong with my tape recorder and stuff, or the tape. But I didn't quit. I just wanted to see what was this, and I want to also to know, is it something wrong with my tape recorder or what. And after a while I realized that no way, this was great music. It was just very complex and very trashy, aggressive. And then I just, from that point on, Creator was my biggest favorite of all thrash metals. Then along came bands like Tankard, Whiplash, Venom, Anthrax, Testament, The New Order. Wow, that's like, what a kick, man. Testament is still one of my favorite thrash metal bands. It's, I think that even Testament and even Creator, they are like the definition of thrash metal for me. And then we moved to Sweden, and I continued to discover even more bands like Demolition Hammer. It's a huge favorite. Too bad they only have a couple of albums. Now they reform, so I hope they will come with a new one. Yeah, Exodus, Bonded by Blood, it's great. And then another band that I discovered is Skyclad. Skyclad, it's the first couple of albums were thrash metal, pure thrash metal, especially their first one. Not pure thrash metal, maybe combined with folk elements, but their first one, The Wayward Sons of Mother Earth, I think it's the best thrash metal ever made, period. A lot of fantasy, a lot of anger, a lot of speed, not really melody, but great barking style Martin has on it. Great lyrics. I mean, this man is like a poet, and yeah, it's a great band, and it influenced me. It really made me realize that metal doesn't have to be a cliche. There are a whole lot of metal bands who got very conscious lyrics, both political and other lyrics. Many metal bands have something to say. It's not only about the speed and crushing things and headbanging and stuff. They really have something to say. They have meaning. So that's why I like this music. And not only thrash metal bands, but even heavy metal bands, a lot of heavy metal bands. And then, of course, there are a lot of cliches also, but that comes with the territory. It's still fun, and you can still bang your head to it. And you can still get out your frustrations without having to do it some other way. So this music has everything, I think, that I like about music, that I think music should offer. Meaning, interesting lyrics, interesting ways to view the world, interesting different music styles in this genre. It's just great. And this is the kind of music that fills me up, gives me energy. That's why I like it. So yeah, I have to also mention it. There are some very great Hungarian thrash metal bands also. Okelo is one of them. Moby Dick, another one. Remorse, also a very great band. Great thrash metal band. Fekete Sereg, another one. Great bands. So if you don't know any Hungarian bands, these are the ones I can recommend. There is a couple of other more known bands like Ectomorph. They're pretty known, but it's not the best Hungarian thrash metal, I promise you. There are a lot more. If you're just willing to hear them sing in Hungarian, then you can discover a lot of great bands. Okay, so that's about it. There are a whole lot of more bands that I like, but I think that this list could be very long, so I just stop here. So thanks, cheers, and keep banging.
Hi, this is Bob Agges from Holland, 45 years old, founder and ex-drummer of the death metal band Asphyx, and now playing in the black death metal band Soulburn, in Minotaur Head, and a new band called Infil Reich. I'm here to tell you about my biggest metal influences, who influenced me as a person, and also the reasons why I started my own band. It all started with singles from Alice Cooper, Van Halen, Running with the Devil, and You Really Got Me. I was like, I don't know, 9-10 years old. Then it went from there to Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, and more extreme stuff like, for instance, one of my fave albums, Venom, Welcome to Hell. That's one of my absolute fave albums. Followed up by Venom, black metal, Need Records. Of course, also Motorhead, Bomber, a huge impression. Then, when I was at high school, almost at high school, I was still in junior class. We found out about a band called Metallica. First album, Kill 'Em All, really blew us away. It was like, it's even more brutal and extreme than Venom was. And the follow-up, Ride the Lightning, everybody knows it. And from there, it went more extreme and more extreme. Then we got the first, I think, real death metal band, Hellhammer, Apocalyptic Rage, Triumph of Death. It was a slow song, but it was so brutal, so heavy, it was incredible. It was almost like you were playing the record at the wrong speed. They turned into Celtic Frost, and this was the album who influenced with Venom Asphyx a lot. Then, of course, one of my fave mini albums, Sodom, In the Sight of Evil, and Witch Hunter being one of my fave drummers, along with Abaddon from Venom. Also the Canadian Exciter. It's also a very important album for me, personally. I really like the first album, Heavy Metal Maniac, also a lot, but this one really did it for me. I don't know, it's maybe the songs or maybe even the cover, I don't know. German, Destruction, Sentence of Death. Was really highly impressed by the guys on the cover with all the crosses and the bullet belts and stuff. And also a very important album for me, Slayer, Hell Awaits, 1985 classic. I like Show No Mercy too, but Hell Awaits was more heavy, was more brutal, more atmosphere. Then Sweden knocked on the door with black metal, Battery the Return. It's one of my absolute fave bands of all time. Bands, one-man project. Also 1985, Possessed, Seven Churches. I got this one on the Combat record label. It has the black script on it, 7 churches. You can feel it also. And then yeah, for me The Killer from 1986, which really blew me away. The Mighty Pleasure to Kill from Kreator. I mean, Endless Pain was a great album, but when this came out, I was like, holy shit! Listening to it on the headphones, and was like, this can't be this fast. I mean, also 1986, very underrated, Messiah, Hymn to Abramelin. Chainsaw Murder Records. This was also Messiah, a huge influence on Asphyx, and also the drummer here was a very big influence on me as a drummer, because of the simple, the very simple beat he had, but very heavy, very catchy too. You know, you were able to air drum it yourself, so that really inspired me. And of course also another 86 classic, Slayer Rain and Blood. Was even more extreme than Hell Awaits was, and we were like, ooh, this is really brutal stuff. But now I think in the end I might enjoy Hell Awaits a little bit more. Well, then 1987, Death, Scream, Bloody Gore. After hearing the demos, I finally got hands on this album. Then in 1987, I was in high school, and we traveled with the train through Holland, and I bought this for my pocket money. 1987, really brutal stuff, and also the first real fast album, Napalm Death Scum. Was so fast that I think it's really the first grind album with lots of Celtic Frost Hellhammer riffing on side A, and I think Mick Harris is really one of the best blast beat drummers, along with Dave Gray from Repulsion. 1987, and also an influence on my personal my bands, and also a little bit of my drumming. Slaughter, Strappado, really Celtic Frost worship. And then a second one, 1987, from Messiah, Extreme Cold Weather, just as great as the first album, I think. And of course, here we have Necrophagia, Season of the Dead. It's my top 3 death metal album. It's not very over the top brutal or whatever, but it has such a blood dripping atmosphere. It's incredible. I mean, the cover says it all. And a Jewel, also one of my favorite mini albums of all time. I think it's my number 1. Mayhem, Death Crush, Numbered. It really blew my mind when I got it. I got it with the demo. I got the demo as a gift from Euronymous, and I bought this album. And yeah, Euronymous helped us a lot when I just started Asphyx. With interviews and get our name spread, and I think we still owe him a lot, Rip Euronymous. But he helped us greatly in those days, and I'm really proud that I did know the guy, really. Also, another one of my faves, and very influential on my on me, Battery, Under the Sign of the Black Mark. It's such a dark album. It's lots of atmosphere and lots of brutality, and yeah, it says it all. And Battery is also the band who influenced Colorado band Soulburn the most because of the simple rhythms, the simple riffing, but real catchy songs. I have dozens more of albums, but these are albums which made me who I am and also as a musician. Like Venom, Abaddon is my favorite drummer, and I mean Bruce Day from Hellhammer, Steve Priestley, Ron Sumners from Slaughter. Here from Messiah, they're also all a big influence on me as a drummer. You know, catchy drumming. You know, you can like air drum it and not too technical, but keep it steady and nothing more, nothing fancy. I still listen to those albums quite a lot. Yeah. So these are the most important albums in my life. And also in my musical career. So, well, John, I hope you like this video, and see you.
Her face was smiling, her bright eyes were filled with tears. The people's temple were crowded, she felt no fear. And then she saw him.
Hello there, I'm Dag Svane, formerly known as Tom Noga, from the band Nightingale, also known as AG in the bizarre metal outfit Pandemonium. I'm here to talk about 3 important hard rock records. To me, there's a difference between a very important record and top 10 stuff. This, for instance, Black Sabbath Sabotage, I will not put in my top 10 over the best albums ever made, but it's certainly one of the most important ones. Back in 1975, I sneaked into my elder brother's room, took out his record. The cover was cool, I heard about Black Sabbath, put the needle down, and out came Hole in the Sky. And my life changed. Then a short, bizarre instrumental song, and then Symptom of the Universe. There was no going back. I bought this record a month later, on the 20th of September in 1975. I've written to you. This is one of the few vinyls I have kept. I don't like vinyls. In fact, I hate it. But this I kept for nostalgic reasons. A very good record. Listen to it if you haven't. I must also mention Ozzy's vocals on this one. It's incredible. Nowadays, Ozzy is probably the worst professional singer out there. He's so bad it's an embarrassment. But on this record he is excellent. High-pitched, ice cold, and it fits the music perfectly. Black Sabbath. This album rocks. This is another one, not in my top 10, but a very important one. Hope you can see the cover. This is excellent sounding digital stuff. Judas Priest, Satellings of Destiny. Dark, mysterious, progressive. Back in 1976, Judas Priest was a sort of underground band here in Sweden, and there was no info about them. The only pictures I've seen of them for years were the ones on the backside of the cover and the one on the backside of the first album, Rock'n'Rolla. And I looked at this cover so many times. It was something different. Victim of Changes, The Ripper, Dream Deceiver, Tyrant, Genocide, Epitaph, Island Domination. All killers, no fillers. I'm not sure it's the band's best album. I probably think Sin After Sin is a notch better, but this is a very special one. Judas Priest, Satellings of Destiny. It always rocks. This is top 10 stuff. Probably in my top 3 over the best albums ever made. Rainbow Rising. Richard Blackmore at his best. Ronnie Dio at his best. Cozy Powell at his best. Jimmy Bain at his best. Tony Carey at his best. Sadly, only 2/5 of this excellent lineup is alive today, and Richie ditched it much too soon. But this album is magic. I don't think there is a single time when I play this since its release 40 years ago that I hadn't got goosebumps when I heard Terror Woman or Stargazer or Light in the Black. This is good progressive hard rock, and Richie never got any better than this. Pure magic, Rainbow Rising.
Everybody's doing the toxic waltz.
friend of the head and have a ball. Go on into the toxic waltz and slam your partner against the wall. Everybody's doing the toxic waltz. Good friendly, violent fun is storm for all. Get up off your ass and toxic waltz. If you hit the floor, you can always crawl.
You think I'd have this memorized by now, John? Alrighty. Black Sabbath, Volume 4. Doesn't matter. Any one will do. That was the first album I bought, so I'd say Sabotage, but Volume 4. Gotta give the love. Suicidal Tendencies. Suicidal Tendencies. I mean, it's the first album. It's the greatest album. It's the greatest hits. They never were better after that. Minor Threat, Out of Step with the World. First album I bought. Agnostic Front, Victim in Pain. First album, of course. It's the greatest hits. Dead Kennedys, In God We Trust, first album I bought. Then you got Broken Bones, it's the greatest band ever. Crucifix, the EP, first one I got. And then you got Slayer. I can go any way with Slayer. First album, we'll go with Hell Awaits. Saw that tour twice. Megadeth was one of the bands, and then of course that leads me to the next. There's no Megadeth on this list. They're terrible. It leads me to DRI, who opened for Slayer. I can go with Dealing With It, or the first EP, which was like 22 songs or 28 songs. It only lasted like 15 minutes. Fantastic. Then you got Venom. I gotta look at the list. You got Venom. You can take anyone. Welcome to Hell, Black Metal, At War with Satan. So I'll go with At War with Satan. Scared everybody with that one. Then you got the Misfits. First song I think we heard was Bullet. But Legacy of Brutality. Then you got Kiss, my brother's favorite band. I think his first album he bought was Dressed to Kill, and Alive 2. So, of course, Alive 2 for me. And then you got some love for the perennial favorites, Iron Maiden, first album, and Judas Priest. I like Sin After Sin and Unleashed in the East. Rob Halford screaming Victim of Changes. I mean, how can you not like that? All right, John, I guess that's it. See you, man.
What's up? Darn Doty, singer of Eliminate, original singer of Dark Angel. John asked me to tell you who my inspiration was when I was growing up. That would have been Ozzy Osbourne. Diver Madman and Blizzard of Oz were the two albums that pretty much changed my life. I would sit by the stereo, crank it up as nice and loud, and I'd sing along with him, screaming my voice to the top of my lungs. And just like he, I didn't care what anybody thought or heard or anything. I was doing it for me. That's what I did. I started a band, we started a band, Dark Angel, and we got on stage and we did what we wanted to do. Didn't care what preppies or anybody else thought or anything else that was going on. We got out there and we had a good time. I would encourage anybody to do it. It is life-changing. And that's why I sing metal today. Hope that's what you're looking for, John. We'll be playing New York. Eliminate will be playing New York April 8th, 2017. If you're around, stop on in, say hey. Always welcome the fans. Always welcome you. Have a good one. Thanks.
Hi guys, this is Anton. I play drums in a band called Defcon 1. I've also been known to play drums for a band called Venom and a band called Empire of Evil with a couple of buddies of mine who used to be in Venom as well, who are now in Venom Inc., ripping the world apart. Right, I've been asked by a friend of mine called John to say a few things about my favourite metal album. I was brought up on bands like AC/DC, Van Halen, Kiss, and one day a buddy of mine called Gary brought an album round by these guys called Cowboys from Hell, and I played it and I thought, what the fuck is this? Thought it was awesome. A few weeks later he brought Vulgar Display of Power, and that just nailed me to the wall. But for me, my favourite album by Pantera is this. This, for me, is the most metal album of all time. Pantera, for me, were like a really, really heavy, brutal metal version of Van Halen with the brother thing and all that. But shit, man, it opens up Strength Beyond Strength, Becoming, 5 Minutes Alone, Broken, fucking, it just rips your fucking head off. It just rips your fucking, the drums kick your fucking head in, the guitar kicks your fucking head in, the bass kicks your fucking head in, the vocals kick your fucking head in. This is the most metal fucking album out there.
My name's Nathan. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I've been friends with John for 25 years. It's been a lot of fun watching his collection grow over all these years, and he's introduced me to more metal bands than I could ever possibly talk about. He asked me to talk about a few of my favorite albums and a few that influenced me. So for me, it all started back in the 5th and 6th grade. My friend Rich had 3 older brothers who were all into metal. So we would go downstairs and we would go through their records and we would listen to stuff. And one of the first records I ever remember us listening to was Metallica, Kill 'Em All. And it was over for me at that point. It was all about metal. Another album that really grabbed me back then when I was a kid, listened to a lot of hair metal bands. And one of the albums we would listen to a lot also was Queensryche, Rage for Order. And that album always stuck with me. It's a lot different than every other album I think that I own. I'd say it was a little bit ahead of its time. It's just one of those albums that it's bizarre. There's really incredible, and it still grabs me to this day. Every couple months I'll throw it in and usually listen to it front to back, and it still blows my mind the stuff that they were writing back then. And that album really helped me to realize that it was okay not to listen to the same thing all the time. Every single band I liked didn't need to sound exactly like Dokken and other bands like that. It was okay to expand a little bit. Also watching Headbangers Ball all the time as a kid. They used to play Iron Maiden videos all the time, so I would definitely have to put Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, on the list. Bruce's vocals, amazing. Iron Maiden's another one of those bands that no one else really sounds like. You put on a Maiden album, you know it's Maiden. No one else even comes close to what they sound like. Very unique and definitely have their own style. After that, I'm going to mention Motley Crue. When I was 13 or 14, I wanted to play the drums, so I got my first drum set. And I taught myself by listening to Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil. So Tommy Lee was my guy back then. Thank you, Tommy, for teaching me how to play drums, even though you have no clue who I am. That was a huge part of my life. And Shout at the Devil still holds up to this day. Still one of my all-time favorite albums. Throw it on front to back. There's not a bad moment on it. So moving on to my top 2, which is a really tough call for me. I could almost flip a coin between these 2 albums. But number 2, I'm going to go Slayer, Rain and Blood. That album opened the door for some heavier bands for me to get into. Testament, Overkill, Sacred Reich, bands like that. It definitely opened the door and broadened my horizons with metal bands. And then my favorite album, if I had to pick one, would be Anthrax, Among the Living. Ever since I saw the video for Indians way, way, way back in the day, they've been my favorite metal band. So yeah, I would have to put that one right there at number one. All right, there's a list of a few influential albums for me. Take it easy, and Johnny, I will see you soon, buddy.
Compassion comes into play. Abominable humanity, the altruistic play. Trading pain on your lapel to avoid your hell.
Hello there. Well, I've been asked to do my favourite albums. These are just vinyl that I've got. They're not CDs. I've got a bunch of CDs, but they're all packed away. And also, these may not be my exact favourites, but you're welcome to check them out. By the way, my name is David Ingram, or Dave, if you want. I don't mind. I don't care. Call me what you like. Right, first up, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Great album. If you can also include The Wall, in fact, anything by Pink Floyd, and also David Bowie, if you want. Secondly, these are in no order, by the way. I just did them at random. Then there's Rudimentary Peni. Yes, I said Peni. It's an album called Death Church. This was in constant rotation on the Bolt Thrower tour bus. Loved it, and it's a great album. An original copy with the big fold-out poster. And then, of course, we have to go to Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind. Brilliant album. And obviously, again, not Number of the Beast or whatever people would think. This is a killer album. Really, really good. Enjoyed that very much. And maybe a little surprise, but Kiss the Elder. Yeah, great album as well. Very underrated, and it needs to be listened to a lot more. And I really hope that they would actually make the movie that this was supposed to be about. God damn it, Simmons! Alright. But, it's all cartoony-woony for... Never mind. Jethro Tull, Songs from the Wood. Excellent band. And I love this sort of folky, earthy feel that this music has. And, you're probably going to hate me for that, but I don't give a shit. But this makes up for it. Black Metal. Great album. Great band. The Venom Inc. are even better these days. So, you check them out. This is a compilation album, Reading Rock from 1983, I think, or 82 maybe. Whitesnake, Terraplane, Marillion, Jackie Litton, Budgie, Twisted Sister, Chinatown, Michael Schenker, Marillion, Terraplane, UFO. Yeah, there's a fuck ton of really cool heavy metal on here. Let's just open it up. Lovely pink colour in the middle. Ooh. But yeah, it's a great album, and I have it on digital now, finally, so that's very cool. Destruction. My mate Mass, he and I used to listen to this around at his apartment constantly. This one, and also The Accused, Martha Splatterhead's Maddest Stories Ever Told. Killer. But this one is an excellent album. Very, very old school thrash, and it's one of those ones that really piqued my interest. Of course, Bolt Thrower, Realm of Chaos. Now, it's not my favourite Bolt Thrower album. That was obviously for Victory. You thought I was going to say Honor, Valor, Pride then, weren't you? But no, this was what got me into Bolt Thrower massively. I heard the first album, In Battle There Is No Law, then this came along, and I was completely blown away, and I was a lifelong fan, and ended up singing for the Bleeding Band. How about that? So, finally, last one, my ultimate favourite album of all time, Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Yes, I'm old. I've been David Ingram. Thanks for checking out my top 10-ish, I don't know, favourite albums, and until next time, hail Satan.
Hi guys, how you doing? Good to speak to you. My name is Al Barnes. I'm the former guitarist, or I was a guitarist in Venom for a time, in the late 80s, early 90s, and primeval period. Subsequently played guitar in a band called Accelerator. And I was delighted when John gave me a shout and asked me if I would do a quick video about either my favourite or an influential or an album that was really special to me early in my life. I was delighted initially, and then you start thinking, you know, that's a big call, isn't it? With the Doors, and that's not all of them. I've got a lot of albums and favourite changes from day to day, but I thought hard and I thought let's pick one, let's have a go, let's try and work this out. So I'm sure everybody else that's involved in this is saying something very similar. How do you pick one? It was hard, but I focused and I thought if you cast your mind back to, I reckon, about 1982, and you try to imagine this face when it was young and hairless, not the head but beard, and just kind of finding your way into music, into rock music or metal, and learning that that's the kind of music that you love. There was one band, for various reasons, for numerous reasons as it transpired later, that a lot of the slightly older kids than me, you know, the kids that you thought were cool, or your friends, older brothers or older siblings, and then you start getting involved in this rock culture. And it was a band that in 1980 had released an album at a point in their career, which at the time I didn't realise had gone through an incredible change and faced incredible tragedy and could have just disappeared altogether, but instead they moved forward and produced what has transpired to be one of the most influential and possibly one of the most best-selling, not only rock albums, but one of the best-selling albums of all time. And I still love it today, and hopefully the plastic sleeve won't give you too much shine. Let's take it off. And it's this bad boy, AC/DC Back in Black. It's an absolute classic in every capacity. And from the first time I heard it to today, and I will listen to it after this because it's great. Okay, first off, it may be considered slightly controversial. Did my hand just look like Donald Trump there when I did that? That's sad, isn't it? Sorry about that. Possibly controversial that some of you guys watching it have come to see something, expect a true metal album. And, you know, controversy says that this potentially could be arguable that this is not a metal album. You know, but to be honest, if you're watching this and you genuinely make that distinction, then just fast forward, because this is just one of the greatest rock albums of all time, and unquestionably fits into the category of metal. However, it isn't only in the category of metal, so definitely not, because you know what it contains. Its expression, innovation, entertainment, incredible passion and power, and those are the kind of things that I think metal is all about. And still to today, I can remember the first, maybe not the very first time I heard it, but I can remember the period of time when I was first listening to this album. When I first heard it, I was still living at home in my mum's house with a little turntable downstairs. I received it on C90 tape, obviously, that's what happened then. I remember listening to it for the first few times, and I still listen to it today, and it still holds the same for me, more or less. And I still think it's a perfect album. Yeah, that's a bold thing to say, but it is. I mean, it's a perfect balance. Boasts possibly the best rhythm section on the planet, one of the best rhythm sections the planet's ever seen, and pretty much the best rhythm section that was on the planet at the time. You know, Mal, Phil, and Cliff, the most type powerful combination of musicians. Then the the introduction of Jonna, Brian Johnson, or Uncle Brian, as I like to call him. Who had possibly one of the hardest and the biggest jobs that maybe the music industry or the rock industry has ever seen. You know, stepping into the shoes of Bon Scott. That was no mean feat. I think he did it with incredible respect and conviction and prowess. You know, he brought his raspy, blues-tinged lungs of doom to what was already a phenomenal set of songs and instrumentations, and he brought something great to it. I don't think anybody else on the planet could have done that at the time under the circumstances. And the whirlwind of soaring machine gun assault of riffs and screaming lead, that's the fantastic Angus Young, as fast and as furious. Sounds like a film title, sorry. But as furious and as fast as it could possibly be, but retaining elegance and feel, and sounding like blues guitar playing a rock album by virtuoso, and all brought together by Mutt Lange, who did a sterling, fantastic job of a wonderful production. The definition, the clarity, everything is audible. Everything's there, everything's apparent. If you want to listen to Malcolm, you can. If you want to listen to Phil's hi-hat, beauty and elegance, you can. Equally for all the rest of them, obviously. You can. I've only ever heard one observation or one flaw with respect to the production, and that was by a good old friend of mine, Fred Purser, who was the guitarist in Tigers Pantang and Penetration prior to that, and he's a producer and owns a studio in the northeast of England that I've recorded in. He's a good friend, and he doesn't like the snare drum sound. That's all he's got. Other than that, I think he thinks it's a perfect album as well. So, I mean, at that age, I was aware of rock. I knew about rock music. I knew about heavy metal. I knew I liked it. I knew I liked guitars. I knew I liked performance. And my earliest memories of music were, had been of my very earliest memory of music. I'm pretty sure is of David Bowie and Mark Bolan and Queen, and the Beatles as well. And John Lennon, obviously. I had older cousins who loved that sort of 70s British glam rock movement. I had a Mark Bolan poster on my wall as an infant. I didn't know who he was. I just thought he looked cool. It was given to me by a family member. And then I moved on into rock, and hearing and American rock like Kiss and Alice Cooper. I'd heard that, but Back in Black was the first album that I heard and appreciated as an entire body of work, from that first, the bell and the intro and that awesome riff, that opens up, and almost like, the bell almost like a tribute to Bon. But I just absolutely, it took my breath away. I'm almost getting lost for words, but it's just the ferocity and the brutality of the performance that encapsulated memorable songs and riffs and solos, and I just absolutely fell in love. It gave me an indication of what a rock band who recorded albums and toured, to me, should sound like. and I still listen to it today. And as I said, when I finished recording this, I'm going to go and make myself a coffee, and I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen to Back in Black pretty loud. I think it's a masterpiece. It's the pinnacle of that period in rock for me, and I have very little else to say other than to thank John for asking me to make this video, because it was good fun to think about and do, and made me think hard, and it made me listen to some stuff I hadn't heard for a long time, and then it made me decide on something that, to be honest with you, I probably heard about. This is the beginning of January. I haven't played it over Christmas and New Year because I've been away, but I guarantee you I have played it in December. So this is The Boy. Not much more to say, but thank you, and I hope you enjoy everybody else's video and everybody else who's contributed to this, because I think it's a great idea and a great project. Okay guys, thanks very much.
Hey metal fans, my name is Laura, and I'm shooting a little video here on the request of my friend John on my history of metal, what got me started on my love of metal. I'd say it happened in 1978. I was 9. My dad gave me permission to order an album from his Columbia House Records. I was 9, like I said, and I got to order the Alice Cooper Show Live album. Man, that was awesome. Such a amazing introduction to metal with his macabre style, the boa constrictor, which maybe was the beginning of my love of snakes too. To be able to blast Alice Cooper throughout the house stereo and have his permission, of course, because he allowed me to buy it. And that was the beginning, which led to Kiss and Ozzy and yeah, just remember that at the age of 9. And then I just couldn't get enough. I love, of course, the classic rock, Zeppelin, which is amazing. The riffs, the deep tones, and all that those entail, but then there was always that constant need to have heavier and faster rock, which, you know, the classic rock is great, but it just doesn't offer. So then, as time goes, Ozzy and Black Sabbath is there, but then I was introduced to, like, Iron Maiden, which is amazing, and Peace of Mind album I think is my favorite from Iron Maiden. And then seeing them in concert, I found some of my old concert stubs here, and that was fun to sit and trip through time and remember, or try to remember, some of those concerts. And I was remembering the first pseudo concert I went to, AC/DC, my parents let me go to. I don't know how old I was, 82, so I'd have been about, oh, I don't know, 13 or something. The Let There Be Rock, it wasn't a concert, it was a video or a film I got to go see, and that was mind-blowing for me at such a young age to see AC/DC on film, which gave me even a deeper craving to see a concert live. Then it just kept going, and one day, I won't forget this day, a friend of mine introduced me to Metallica. It was, I think it was about 85, my friend Daryl sat me out in his Camaro and said, here's a band that I think you'll like. Wow, yeah, Metallica's been my favorite band ever since. The first concert I got to go see them at, the Iowa Jam, I believe it was May, I think it says, of 86. And I got to go see them, and I got pushed my way up front, which is easy to do when you're a girl, and got right up front. Got to see Cliff Burton on his bass. Got as close to him, gosh, I could have touched him. And just stand there, climbed up on somebody's shoulders, and he played directly to me. That's a memory I will never forget, regardless of what I was doing that day. Burned in my memory, and incredible, because just a few short months later, as we know, September 27th of that year, he died. So I'm so privileged to be able to have seen him that year. The day I heard Cliff Burton died was very hard because he was my favorite bass player. It's my favorite band. That was very hard. So anyway, that was just a really sad day that I won't forget. My love of metal continued, and going to concerts was an integral part of that. I remember seeing Suicidal Tendencies and getting to meet the band downtown, and also going to different concerts, Anthrax and Metal Church, getting backstage, meeting those guys. That was fun, another perk of being a girl. And also MOD, Method of Destruction. That was a blast. Another fine tune memory embedded in my brain. I think my favorite concert memory, going to a small venue up in Omaha with a boyfriend and a bunch of friends. One thing that I remember back in the 80s, there were not a lot of girls in the metal scene. I was one of the very, very few in my high school, one of the very few on the metal scene, especially the smaller metal bands. Even at the large venues, I think of Metallica, especially pushing my way up front in the mosh pits, in the very front rows of those concerts, there weren't girls. Just the guys up there ready to bang their heads. But for those of us who were in the leather, in the spikes, I was one of the very few. And I remember this concert with MOD. It was like one girl to every 20, I think. Me with my spike blue hair, and the rest was long, and leather and chains and spikes and all that stuff. A lot of fun. And I remember meeting the band with my friends, and the bass player was begging me to run off with him, and it was just too funny. I think his name was John. No, I can't remember his last name right now. But anyway, a blast, and the lead singer did a stage dive, but the whole crowd parted and he hit the ground. So my friends took him to the hospital and got him fixed up, and he came back and they continued the set. It was a blast. And then of course afterwards they invited us to their hotel room, and the partying continued. Just so much fun. I think I was all of 18. So good memories, great times, and of course, it just sets the stage for continuing to love the music. As I got older, listening to the favorites, you know, Metallica, of course, always, and Anthrax, and Iron Maiden, and Black Sabbath, always, and I don't know, the list goes on and on. There's always the classics that I love. I wake up every morning with Metallica riffs in my head, always. So my favorite metal albums would be, like I said, Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind, Black Sabbath's Paranoid, and Metallica would be a toss-up between Kill 'Em All and Master of Puppets. And what is really funny is, as I've gotten older, maturing, my friends, I seem to be the only metalhead, but that's okay. We can all have different friends and different tastes. The rock will go on. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's great to experiment with different kinds of music, different venues within metal itself. I think it's fantastic, just the opportunity to see, John, what you have put out here, to listen to other people's opinions. I've been introduced to different bands, which I appreciate. Thank you, John, for this opportunity to just stop and think my history alone of where I started with Alice Cooper and where it's taken me through the years with my favorite bands. And it's just been a lot of fun to think about. Thanks, and rock on.
Say hey. Hello, John. You're the great guy. Hey! Yeah!
So there you have it. We're about to the end of Volume 4. There were a lot of heavy hitters on this one. Not that there weren't some great ones on the last 3, but there were a few people on this video that I was really pleasantly surprised. They sent me a video, and I am still blown away and still honored and deeply humbled that they actually took the time to do it, because I really honestly didn't think that I would get some of the videos that I got from some of these members of awesome bands that I grew up on. So I really appreciate that more than anything. So The next step in my metal journey doesn't really take me through metal. You know, I as I said before, I was really kind of getting into Motley Crue and Wasp and heavier stuff. But, you know, before I really had heard Metallica and really saw that there was a path that metal was going to take, I was really kind of getting bored and kind of figuring where's this going to go. So I had a friend that we would go to the high school basketball games together in his old I think it was 78 Chevette, if you guys remember Chevettes. And he would pop in cassettes that he made. And at the time, he didn't listen to very much metal at all. It was pretty much all punk and hardcore and a lot of stuff that was what you would consider underground. And the first thing he played me that kind of grabbed me was really, you know, something that was pretty well known, Sex Pistols. So why do you have 2 copies of the vinyl, John? Well, 1, because I'm me and psycho. 2, this pink version is the U.S. version on Warner Brothers. And the back is green. And this is the version that is on Virgin Records from the UK. And the back is pink. But I still remember him playing it for me. And this is, you know, this wasn't like the 70s. It was early 80s, you know, 83, 84, somewhere around that time frame. And I just remember it being different. You know, it wasn't something that you would hear on the radio. But there's just something about him. Johnny Rotten in the attitude. And then you get Sid Vicious taking over for Glenn Matlock on bass, who couldn't play bass, who half the time was strung out on heroin, dating some psycho heroin addict. Ended up, you know, being convicted, or not convicted, but accused of her murder. And before he could go to trial, overdosed on heroin. So, I mean, it's just this huge mystique around the band. All things aside, this album is a beautifully, beautifully done, great album. Just it's a heavy-hitting album, just quick, 3-minute long songs, kind of catchy, and you know, and lyrically, it's just, you know, it's just something about it that just really grabs me. And I've always loved the Pistols. The Ramones, another band, like I had mentioned them earlier, you know, they could easily have been given more credit for the punk movement. But this album, Road to Ruin, the song I Just Want to Have Something to Do is just got kind of a heavy beat to it. I mean, I would hesitate to say it's a hard rock or metal song, but just the way it's played, it just kind of makes you want to, you know, bang your head. But you got I Want to Be Sedated on here as well. I Wanted Everything, Don't Come Close, Needles and Pins. They do some covers of old 50s and 60s classics and can kind of juice them up a little. And they you know, it was always every song was 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's just, you know, just 3, 4 chords, nothing really technical, nothing really great. Just 4 dudes in t-shirts and torn up jeans playing just raucous rock and roll. And just great. The one band he got me into that to this day, it's a little bit hard to listen to, but when you think about it, and I just looked at this today and saw the date, and it blew me away again. If you've never listened to Crass, this is the album The Feeding of the 5,000. This is from 1978. And all their albums were basically just a big fold-out poster. And they're hard to come by now. Actually, the friend that I got into a lot of this stuff from decided he didn't want the records anymore, and he sold it all to me in bulk for a really good price. There's a song on here, probably my favorite song by the band, and probably the song that I would probably speak to the most, Do They Owe Us a Living? And I remember, you know, I'm young, and the chorus is, do they owe us a living? Do I owe us a living? Of course they fucking do, you know, they just pumped it. But the guitar is raw as crap. It almost sounds like they had distortion pedals and the batteries were almost dead. That's how raw and rough the distortion is on this. So if you've never listened to Crash before, give them a shot. Not saying you're going to like it, but just the rawness of it all. For black metal fans in particular, I really think that there's something to be said for that. And if you like black metal, especially raw black metal, there's raw. They weren't singing about Satan or anything like that. It was more political, but it's raw. This next one's going to be a stretch, but bear with me. Devo. It's actually backwards. Their first full-length album on Warner Brother Records, Are We Not Men, We Are Devo. Now, first album I heard was Freedom of Choice, as is most people, with the song Whip It, which, everybody's heard that, and I hear people say they're a one-hit wonder. They were around since 1974, doing recordings in their homes, making their own instruments, making their own computerized guitars, their own computerized drums in their own home, doing their own home recordings, and it was punky. It was raw. It was in your face. They would play shows, opening up for different artists that were going to be a huge draw, and their goal was to play as badly as they could to get everybody to leave before the headliner came on. And that was kind of a punk mentality. It was kind of a fuck you mentality. That was kind of the old school rock and roll mentality that had been lost with all the progressive, 20-minute long songs by ELP and Yes and all that stuff. Not that it's bad music, but it's been lost. But that is Are We Not Men? We Are Devo. There's hardly any real, when you compare it to like Freedom of Choice, which has Whip It, and there's majority of it is keyboard and computerized synthesizers. There's very little synthesizer in this. It's all really guitar based and really kind of in your face guitar wise. So if you've never checked it out, if you want something different just to try it, I recommend checking them out. Check that album out because it is really kind of raw. The other band he played me was DOA. And this is the first album that I heard from them. And this is actually a compilation of their first two full-length albums. And I think the albums, I don't know if it's something Better Change in Hardcore 81. And I think these were re-recorded or remixed or something because they sound different. I have the CDs of those first two albums. But this is where you hear the song Fuck You that Overkill covered back in 1985 on the Fuck You EP. And actually, they were a band called the Subhumans, or they were members of the band the Subhumans from Canada that ended up going on to form DOA, who's also from Canada. But this first album is really great. Some of their stuff since then, Joey Shithead, the vocalist, some of the stuff sounds really good with his vocals, and some of it just really doesn't fit well. But this album, The Prisoner, Unknown, Smashed State, Slumlord, Fuck You, I Don't Give a Shit, just tons of songs, just really kind of, pretty much giving the finger to society, which is really what punk was about back in the day. But I tell you, if you've never heard DOA before, listen to this because I really think that a lot of you guys, especially if you like thrash, would really kind of get into this, especially the first side of DOA, but Bloody But Unbowed. And then this one, I know there's a lot of metalheads that like this band, the Dead Kennedys. It'd be really hard. I'd be really hard pressed to pick one album that I really like, but I have to say that Plastic Surgery Disasters for me, both lyrically and musically, is the one for me. Now the CD contains the In God We Trust Incorporated EP with it as well. So truly that together is an awesome CD, but they're two separate albums and they're both really good, but this is better. Terminal Preppy for me is one of the best songs they ever wrote. It's just that sort of line, the lines that Jello puts in here in his lyrics, especially on this album, are just beautiful. There's Buzz Bomb is on here, Halloween. There's what was the other one? Forest Fire, Winnebago Warrior. Musically, the album is just damn close to flawless. And I would say, and I would challenge that there is elements of this that you hear start to maybe kind of get thrashy. And it isn't a far stretch for me to say that they kind of helped contribute to the thrash scene. Now this one, ironically, got mentioned in one of the videos today, and I'm not bringing this out solely because of that, because I had this cassette, Plasmatics Coup d'etat, and this was I have always liked Plasmatics and Wendy Williams, her WOW album when she did her solo thing. Although it's pretty much Kiss. Gene Simmons produced it and helped write the songs. Paul Stanley helped out on it. Ace Frehley did some recordings on it. So pretty much, so it's more of a heavy metal album. But as it was stated in the video, this really kind of is a good crossover. There's a mixture of both. For starters, the video for this album, for this song, "The Damned," was on MTV, and Destruction covers it on the Mad Butcher EP. It's like, I think, track 3, because the fourth one is an instrumental. But "Put Your Love in Me" and "Stop" are killer songs that are really borderline metal. I mean, really damn close to metal for me. He also played me this compilation, "Let Them Eat Jelly Beans." It was on Alternative Tentacles, Jello Biafra's label. And the first side, actually, no, there's just all sorts of different bands on here. Actually, the first side has the bigger name bands like Flipper, DOA, Black Flag, Brad Brains, Dead Kennedys, Circle Jerks, The Feeders, The Subhumans. Side 2 has got some kind of bands that I've never really listened to. It's just really kind of interesting getting some of these compilations. And I remember this one being really, really a cool compilation that I ended up recording from him and listening to all the time. This band, Millions of Dead Cops, or Millions of Damn Christians, MDC, every album was a different, the MDC standard for something different. And this is I think their first full-length album, and it's just really politically fired up and motivated, and songs like "John Wayne Was a Nazi," and just really, again, 1982. Again, you listen to this stuff and you can really, it's not a stretch to say that music was highly influential on a lot of those bands that were coming up, that were listening to metal, but they wanted something different, kind of like me, but they wanted to pick up a guitar and do that. And they started, kind of meshing the two together. Black Flag is the other band. Slip It In. I remember just for the cover alone, it was worth a buy. And the title track is just awesome. Henry Rollins is great on this album. There's just some great songs. Black Coffee is a great song. Rat's Eyes, just really kind of eerie vocals at times, eerie lyrics. Slip It In is remarkably catchy. Just a great band and great album. And they just had, again, that rawness. They didn't care. Their guitars were distorted so much that when they would open the volume up, you could just, the feedback would just kick in, and you could just hear it. And they didn't care. It was just awesome. Whereas there was a Canadian band, the Subhumans. This is the Subhumans UK, The Day the Country Died. And this is another band that is just really, really cool. Again, very, very raw. This is from like 1980, 80 something. I don't know if there's even a date on the cover. I always remember the song "Mickey Mouse is Dead." Got shot in the head. Just all sorts of again, it's just raw. I think to me, it's the rawness of the music that kind of grabs me. And whereas I always say that I don't really care for rawness and raw music, and I like stuff more produced. At the time I was getting into this stuff, I wanted something different. I wanted something in my face that was just completely, not necessarily not listenable, but something that I was going to play that people were going to hear that were going to go, "What the hell is that? I don't like it." I didn't want to be the person that was listening to stuff that, "Oh, wow, turn it up, man." This band, March Violets, kind of an interesting, I don't know how to describe them, kind of I would say early version of techno, or industrial in a way. Just had some strange vibe to it. But this is early Relativity release. But this is kind of a compilation. I have a bunch of their singles on vinyl. But this is another band that my friend played me, and they're an interesting band. I don't know that there'd be a lot of people out there that would like it. This band is phenomenal, and it's cool. They're on Crass's label. Crass had their own record label, and the name of the band is D&V. It stands for Drums and Vocals. And the name of the album is "Inspiration Gave Them the Motivation to Move On Out of Their Isolation." And it's just what it says. It's drums and vocals. That's it. And it's just incredible. I mean, again, it's just there's kind of an emotion and a feel to it that you don't get when you've got a full band. 2 left. I don't have vinyl with these. I wish I did. Ministry. Mine's a Terrible Thing to Taste. Now this was I have some early Ministry on vinyl. They started out as like a techno, a dance mix type band, and as they progressed through their albums, they started to get a little bit more guitar oriented. And then this album came out, and you have the song Thieves, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard before. More thrash induced. But they were cool. I never got a chance to see them live, but they had 2 drummers. One was playing an electronic drum kit, and one was playing a regular drum kit. And they later got Mike Scacia from Rigor Mortis to play. He played on Psalm 69, the one that got really big. And then I think he played throughout the 90s with them. The first 2 songs, Thieves and Burning Inside, are just heavy guitar, and like I said, Thieves is just kind of fast pick. So What later on is just kind of a heavier, so it kind of incorporates a little bit of hardcore with the industrial, with thrash, and it's just all kind of brought together. My friend played me 9 Inch Nails, and it was Pretty Hate Machine. I mean, it was right after it came out. He played it for me, and I kind of enjoyed it. I liked because I like Devo, and I kind of went on and listened to the synthesized stuff as well. I like the Devo stuff, but I really didn't get into them a whole lot. Don't even think I even owned anything. And then they won. I think they won a Grammy for Broken, the little EP thing that they put out, and then they put out the Downward Spiral. And I remember seeing him on MTV and thinking nothing, I don't really like him. The friend that played me this music all the way through, he had gotten tickets to see them for him and his wife, and they had to postpone the show. And the date they reset for, she couldn't go. So he had a ticket left, so he invited me to go along with him. And I was blown away by the intensity of the performance on the stage. They were pushing each other. They had these keyboards on these springboards, and they were just beating the shit out of their instruments the whole time. And just the whole stage performance was just wild. And while we were there, they were filming parts for the video that would become Hurt, that Johnny Cash later re-recorded and got. It was a hit for him. The other interesting feature about this album that I didn't find out about until later is that it was recorded at the house where Charles Manson had murdered Sharon Tate and her friends on the night that they went in and they broke into her house and killed her, and actually recorded it in the living room where she was murdered. And it just kind of gives me an more of an eerie feeling now knowing that, but it also explains just why it's got just a vibe to it that just grabs you. This album is just really, really great stuff. And it's made me a 9 Inch Nails fan from that point on. So this wasn't really metal per se, but it really is more about the journey that I took to get to that. Anyway, again, so much appreciative of all of you that watch the video, that comment on the video, that share the video, that take the time to record the videos. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can get videos sent. I'm going to try and slow the pace down a little bit so that people don't feel rushed, because that's the last thing I want to do is rush anybody along. I really appreciate everybody's input and feedback. Please continue to share. Please continue to give me comments and feedback. Please continue to send me videos. If you haven't sent me one yet, there's been 4 now. You see there's people, all types of people. Not everybody's comfortable doing the videos. Nobody's here to judge anybody. Everybody's here just to hear what everybody else listens to and how they grew in the world of metal. And that was really the purpose of the video. And it's really turned out to be something special, something cool. And a lot of it's because you guys watching it and sending it, especially the bands. Some of the guys and ladies that have sent me videos that are in bands. I've listened to some of you since I got into this music. I mean, we're talking since I really went gung-ho and started collecting and everything. Been some of my favorite bands. And to have you send me a video to use to help spread around to everybody, to show these videos on YouTube is just like a dream come true. It really is impressive. And it's such an honor that you guys have taken the time to do that. I really appreciate it. So until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Stay metal.